everybody. Welcome. My name is Sharon Bonney, and I'd like to welcome you to this webinar, Educate and Elevate. And we're here with the Executive Director for the State Directors, which is Pat Tyler, and a number of other leadership folks. So I'd like to first take this time to welcome you. We have Tom Nash, who's our Board President.
Hello. Welcome everybody from around the country. So glad you could join us for today, for this launch.
We also have Kay Charbonneau, who's our President-elect. Beverly Smith, who's the Chair of the National Council of the State Directors of Adult Education.
Hello, everybody.
Reese Stagnolia, who's the Chair-elect for the State Directors. And then, of course, myself, the Executive Director for COABE, and Pat Tyler, the Executive Director for the National Council of the State Directors of Adult Education. And we're very excited to be here with you today. Oh, hi, Pat. Great. We're very excited to be here with you all today. And this webinar is really a culmination of a lot of effort. So I'd like to go to the next slide here. We're going to talk about our outreach efforts to date. As you all know, we've been really working closely with the state directors on our advocacy, leadership, and legislative efforts. So in April 2016, we had 57 visits with legislators and staff. And then in September, we had 92 visits with legislators and staff. And then in April 2017, we had 88 visits with legislators and staff. Plus, we had a senior leadership meeting with the Education Secretary, Betsy DeVos, which was really successful, and we felt like we were really able to talk with her about our concerns about adult education. As well, we've had 3 webinars, preparing state leaders for Hill visits, 1 webinar on working with the Trump administration, and that webinar had over 1,500 registrants and a 4.9 out of 5-star rating. So we're very excited about these efforts, and this has really pushed us to the next stage, which is this national public awareness campaign. And this is why we hired Full Capacity Marketing, who will be leading this webinar. So I'd like to introduce to you Full Capacity Marketing, Selena Shands, who is the CEO and founder, and she's going to take it from here. Selena?
Great. Thanks so much, Sharon. And I would like to echo as well to the leadership team your vision for creating a national awareness campaign on adult education, particularly at a time when funding is just so tenuous and workforce and education cuts are certainly on the table. I'm joined here by a couple of our team members today who will also be facilitating the webinar with me, looking at the chat rooms and your questions as we go along, and sort of getting the day rolling. So what I'd like to do before we get started is take you over to our website and just sort of share with you a little bit about our company and who we are. So Full Capacity Marketing is a national company. We're based in San Diego and Washington, D.C. And we have a national focus on missions that really help communities thrive, those being workforce, education, and economic development. So we work all over the country with community colleges, school districts, K through 12, adult schools, and also workforce development boards. In fact, I'm here in Marin today with the County Workforce Development Board as well. So all of these partners play a very critical role in workforce development and education. And it's really important that we come together and really share information, data points, and stories about the importance of adult education. We do a lot in our company with developing campaigns around those missions, primarily because we don't want to be known as the best kept secret, and we also want to get consistent message points across to our target audiences. And in fact, this campaign is targeting local, state, and federal officials around the importance of adult education. So let me take you back to the PowerPoint now. We're going to be sort of toggling back and forth on a couple of different screens today to share with you this information. Okay. There we go. So I also want to take a moment and just thank the COABE team, Chris, Rob, Michelle, and Christine that you see on the screen here. They've been incredibly instrumental in helping us to move these deliverables forward that you're going to see today in terms of our website and a lot of the toolkits that you're going to be able to use both locally and from a statewide perspective to build your brand and get the message out. Before we get into the agenda, what I want to share with you is there are a lot of ways that you can communicate with us. Right now, you're in a listen-only mode. So Mary Ann is at the helm along with Sharon and the executive team reading the chat. So make sure you put in your comments or questions. We'll also be doing some polling as we go through this. If you have a question, you can type your questions in the Q&A box. And you can also raise your hand to let us know that you're present. So this is just a few housekeeping rules on how you're going to communicate with us during the course of the webinar. Now this webinar is the first of 5. And actually we're going to add a 6th one to it as well with the state directors on how you might adapt this campaign, modify it, leverage it for the effort statewide. First of all, we're going to do today is an overview of why the national campaign, what's the context behind it, and then we're going to take a tour of the website with the campaign elements. We're going to take a look at your benefits for participation and future webinar topics. Now, I do want to say right here at this point that, you know, while we've developed a set of toolkit items that you're going to see how you use in your local and state area today, at the end, you're going to be giving us, we're going to be giving you a survey and an open-ended box there that says, what else might you need to help you move your local and state efforts forward around helping to educate policymakers around the importance of adult education? That's really important because we may develop things as we go organically through this process. You're also, beyond the webinars, going to receive a lot of technical assistance. COABE has a fantastic online learning forum, and we're going to be posting all the materials and tools and discussion threads and posts in that learning forum that I'll show you later today. So that way, as you're going through this and you're stuck on maybe a toolkit item or you want to have a question and ask a question to us, our marketing and communications team experts will be there to help you every step of the way. So the whole idea behind this is that we get through the webinars. They are going to be recorded and posted up so that you can share them with your colleagues if they didn't happen to catch the webinar today. And yeah, and then we'll be able to, you know, help you online and all throughout so that at the end of September, we have a big culmination, a big push of doing visits out to all the elected officials, whether they're local, at state, or federal level. So if you'd like, you can go ahead and practice in the chat box today before we dive in here. Maybe you just tell us, type in the chat box what state you're from and how many people you have in the room with you. If it's a group that's attending, we'll take a look at that and just kind of practice the chat feature. Okay, so let's get into this then. Why now? Why now a national campaign? And I think, Sharon, as we're going through these points here, it'd be great if we could pull up the first poll. And we're just curious as, of course, budget cuts are the first thing on the list, obviously. And we want to see how you guys are currently funded, those that are currently on the webinar. Is it Title I, Title II, grant, or membership dues or other sources? So if you could respond to the first poll there, and you can certainly check all that apply. And I know budget cuts are keeping you up at night. I mean, this administration definitely is looking at deep funding cuts to both workforce and education. And so what that tells us is there's really a lack of understanding around the many phases of an adult learner. And also diminished value in understanding that when we really help these adult learners achieve their potential, everybody wins. The community wins, the economy wins, and the individual wins. And for some reason, that story is not getting across. Certainly, there are a lot of political agendas at play here, but at the end of the day, you know, we have to make sure our mission in adult education is front and center. So these are some of the things that certainly keep us up at night as a marketing company that focuses specifically on workforce and education, and we do feel your pain around that. Sharon, can you let us know maybe the responses of the folks here in the poll? or either show them or just maybe verbally tell us. Either one is fine in terms
Great.
of how folks are funding.
Right, so right now it looks like we only have 6% on Title I funding, 40% on Title II funding, 75% on grant funding, 7% with membership dues, and then 40% from other sources.
Okay, that's an interesting, very interesting mix. And you know, what we notice as we work across the country with those focused on adult education is that they're having to diversify their funding streams, right? We're having to braid funding streams, certainly with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act being a big partner. We're looking at innovations and how to braid those funding streams, how to go after competitive grants even to see how we can bring our mission to fruition. So I think it's getting a bit difficult to do that. It certainly is keeping us up at night. And what that tells us is that we've got to be good at storytelling. So Sharon, you can eliminate the poll now, and we'll bring that second one up at a later date. Thank you very much for that. We have to get good at storytelling, and storytelling is something that just doesn't happen during a campaign. It happens, it should happen during the daily course of your day when you interact with your adult learners, with your employers in the community, with your other partners, and you know, with funders in particular. And it's all about demonstrating your values. So as part of this, some of the benefits for participating in this particular campaign is that, oh, Sharon, I lost my screen. Can you see?
Yes, we can see. We can see, Selena. We have engagement of local, state, and federal officials.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so you have engagement of local, state, and federal officials. That's going to help us build momentum for funding. So it's one thing if Sharon's going out there and saying something, Beverly, Reese, and all the state directors and all our local directors, but if we come together and have cohesive messages that are going out and we're having a coordinated push, we're definitely going to build momentum for funding, which is going to be a benefit for you. The other thing this campaign will do, as you'll see as we're going through the website, is to increase your own community awareness of the depth and breadth of your programs and how they're configured within your state and local area to highlight your unique brand. You know, we got a smattering of stories on the website that we're going to show you today. And it's just interesting to see all the different configurations and their brands are being highlighted on the national campaign site. And that gives you recognition for not only your state efforts, but your local efforts. Sharon and the team were talking earlier about the COAVE 2018 conference, which is going to be held in Arizona this year. And looking at, as folks get engaged from around the country with this national campaign, to have award recognition and even a strand at the conference to show how folks are using the toolkit, how they're adapting into their local and state environment in terms of this particular campaign. So that'll be interesting as we go along. We'll show you where you can post your innovations as well to build recognition. At the end of the day, and to me, this is the greatest benefit of this type of campaign, especially with the educational webinars that we have planned for you, is that it's going to help build your own organizational capacity for outreach and storytelling. You know, I know that all of you didn't get into this saying, hey, I'm gonna be an adult educator so I can be in marketing. You know, nobody would go into it with that. But the way the funding streams, everyone's vying for attention and all of that, it really is important to position your mission in a crowded field that is vying for that funding. And that takes place, again, at the local level, within your state, no matter what unique programs you have going on, and at the federal level. So this is going to be great. Again, we have to really focus on the storytelling elements of that. Now, why is that? So why are we focused on collective storytelling? One of the first things we're going to have you all do is go to this link when you get the PowerPoint and take a look at this video. It's about reinventing the way stories are told. And it's by a gentleman called Paul Zak, who's a scientist. And why we want you to review this is because it takes a scientific kind of viewpoint of collective storytelling in general. So it starts out, and I'll just tell you up front, it's a sad story. The story is about a little boy named Ben who has cancer, and the kind of the struggle that his father has, knowing that Ben has a limited time left to live, to be joyful around Ben. Now, they took, Paul Zak took this story into the laboratory, and they measured, when people are viewing this story and others, different elements of their blood and brain imaging to see what is happening when these stories are being told to the individual. And what they found is that there's two chemicals that are released when you watch a good story. One is cortisol, which helps you focus on your attention on the story, and the oxytocin, which helps you connect and have empathy. Now, something very interesting happened during the story is both of these chemicals are released in the brain, and what happened is strangers were donating money to other strangers as in the laboratory, and also nonprofits. They had more of a giving heart, if you will, if these two chemicals were present during a storytelling episode. So what does that tell us? It tells us the power of storytelling, number one, right? And it also says that if my story is well crafted, I'm going to be able to transport others into a perfect stranger's world to have empathy. So that's going to help us. There's a method to our madness, I guess is what I'm telling you, and that storytelling is a very critical part of your campaign. Telling success stories about your adult learners as well as your employers. Sharing innovations and data are also very important, but do not underestimate the power of storytelling. And the reason we're going to house these stories on a national website is because it's collective. There's much more power if we band together and tell collective stories all together than one over here and one over there. So we have this website developed that is going to house all of those. And in that point, helping the collective needle move on educating policymakers about adult education. Now, we did this, we've done this before, just so you know. We've done a national campaign for the Workforce Development Boards out of DC, and this was also a mainstay of helping them maintain their funding as well. So don't underestimate the power of the story, and we have a lot of great stories to tell. So with that framework in mind, Sharon, let's go ahead and bring up the second poll. And we're just curious as to what are you doing right now in terms of educating your policymakers, whether that be at the local elected officials or at the state level or the federal level. So Sharon, if we can bring up that poll, you'll see that one of the answers in there, and you can check as many as you want in this list, is about storytelling. So
Great. It's up. Yep, it's up.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. So storytelling about employers and storytelling about adult learners, perhaps innovations, perhaps you're doing face-to-face visits or using data. All of these are very important, and we're just getting a sense here of what you're currently doing to target this important audience. And Sharon, if you could sort of read through the polls there, get my glasses on here.
Great. So we have 46% of the people who meet with policy leaders and stakeholders in the face-to-face meetings. We have 72% who share data and outcomes of their adult ed programs, 77% who promote adult learner success stories, 22% who promote employer success stories, 38% who promote their adult education innovations, and then 14% who promote others.
Well, this is fantastic, Sharon, because after that story, we can see we've got a large percentage of folks that are sharing stories of their adult learners. So what that tells us is that we're going to be able to have those stories on the website to have that collective power. So thank you for that. Okay, Sharon, we'll go back to the PowerPoint. Thank you. So I think what we want to do now is, with that framework in mind, share with you a little tour of the website, if you will. And the website will sort of walk you through the framework and why we put together things in the manner in which we did. So we're on the website, which is educateandelevate.org. And you know now, after hearing what I just shared with you, that the human element is incredibly important in this campaign. So as you scroll through the website, you'll see on the main murals there key messages of we thrive, we learn, and we work. So all those are very important just in terms of the, you know, the key element of being human here. And as we scroll down, you'll see that we've got quotes from adult learners. And right now it's a skeleton because we haven't asked you for your submissions fully in this campaign, but that's what we'll be focused on over the next couple of months for our big push in September. So you can see here a quote from Catalina. This is from an adult education program, Region 1 in Texas. And she says, sometimes as adults, we fear failing, but in this program, we are given the motivation to persevere. It gives hope back. That's a powerful quote, and I know you have millions of them on file. Between all of us, the 55,000 adult educators that we're targeting for this campaign to step forth and share your stories, there's so many more like that. And there is kind of an art to developing a good story, which we're going to share with you right now. So I go down here, and I'm going to pull up Amanda Klein, go into her story, and I'll show you the different sections here. So Amanda has a story, and you can see that there's 3 sections to her story. There's a challenge. What was Amanda's challenge, right? We know in Ben's story that I shared earlier, the little boy is facing cancer, and the father is trying to figure out a solution to be joyful around the child, knowing that he has limited time on the planet. What's the solution, right? And what's the outcome? Those 3 things encapsulate a very good story. And so we have some up on the website here. These can be written from the customer's point of view. For example, Amanda actually wrote this, or it can be submitted by you interviewing the customer. If you have permission, of course, you'll get permission to share the story. So in Amanda's situation here, she goes, and I'm going to actually increase my slide just a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. So she says, you know, due to a variety of circumstances, I became a single parent working low-paying jobs and barely managing, even after obtaining government assistance. I was without a high school diploma and had no higher education. There are many options at this point. There are not many for elevating yourself except to work at obtaining the credentials you need to get a better job and an outlook on life. Then she talks about coming into the Hartford Community College, who submitted this story. And this is where you see your name would be, your organization name would be promoted on here in terms of submitting the story. So she said she came in and started the GED course. And then after passing that, she had set her sights on higher education, and she entered a certificate course around being a medical administrative assistant. And she says this is a non-credit program for busy adults. I was approved for a scholarship and started immediately. And then she's happy to say that she's now doing her internship at Upper Chesapeake, which is really fantastic. And then it goes on to the outcome, and this is where it becomes very much powerful in terms of what really happened to Amanda. And she says she's looking forward to showing her daughter a stronger, more independent role model. None of this would be possible without adult education programs. Without them, there would be no hope for everyone who finds themselves without proper education later in life. Education is key. So we bring this up because this is just a great story. I think my cortisol and my oxytocin are going off right now because I've been transported into Amanda's story. And we see this, don't we, day in and day out with our adult learners, which is why it's so important to submit them. Now, how do you submit them? Okay, let's go down to the bottom, and we have a little submit form down here. So click to submit. And again, this could be anything, a testimonial. So you'll go to this page, and it's a very simple form that you input. You can cut and paste if you have stories from your website, or it doesn't matter, your annual report. You'll have your customer information name, and here it will say the type of customer, adult learner, or employer. And then you make sure you check, I have permission from the customer to use this story, you know, and then it just gives you the 3 sections. Now you can also upload a photograph if you like. If you have a video of happy to post that up. If you have your logos, all of that can be uploaded simply on this form, and then our team will take it with the COABE team, review it, do any editing. If we do any editing, we'll reach back out to you for final approval, and then it gets uploaded to the site. And the idea is on this page will be just thousands and thousands of stories that are submitted around adult education. Now, I noticed in the poll that many of you did not, about 22% of you are capturing employer successes, is what the poll said. We'd highly recommend that you look at developing employer success stories, those that have an affinity with adult education and have provided some opportunities. And this is all about how adult education helps businesses thrive. Now, this is so important for this particular administration because they are very focused, they're business focused, they're focused on the economy, and we have to be able to show, and you'll see in our messaging where we share data points about the power of adult education in helping the economic engine. Helps the individual, for sure, but we also have to pay attention in the political environment from the federal level where we're at. And so we have to demonstrate that, and we've done that through messaging. So on the employer side, we'll go down here for just a moment. And this is one around building skills partnerships that came out of Los Angeles. And this is a story where it talks about the city was most underused resource was public schools. 90% of janitorial workers are immigrant workers and often work difficult hours and hold multiple jobs. And so in collaboration with the UCLA Labor Center, there was a parent worker program that was aimed to help this particular population. And so there's a story around that. So these are important to tell as well. When you think about, we call it the supply side story, which is the adult learner, and then the demand side on business and industry. We definitely have to demonstrate that in this particular campaign. Maybe if, as an example, you've worked with a business that's done some great work-based learning opportunities for you, maybe internship, or has hired an adult learner, and that business can speak to the tenacity of the adult learner or how it's impacted their business. It's a really important story to tell in this particular campaign, and that's why we have a section on the site dedicated for it. And so as we open up the menu, you can see adult learner successes, employer successes, and then there's innovation. So what's the difference, right? Between the success stories have a human element to it. It's talking from the employer voice or from the adult learner voice and their story. And innovation is something that you have accomplished within maybe your local area, your state area around a specific program or something that you have developed. Maybe you have helped brave funding streams. Maybe you've worked with your workforce innovation and opportunity partners. You've leveraged funding streams or maybe addressed a community need by bringing in partners or creating a very successful program. So here, this is a story here of, you can see this is, sorry, let me pull back up on the screen, the World Life Institute out of New York. And they had a challenge in ESL and US Civics to agricultural workers in a very rural western area in New York. And so they developed sort of this year-round program and have now received the highest annual funds collaborating with these different partners. It's a programmatic kind of innovation, if you will. So we want to highlight what you're doing, and you can see you would get great prominence here in terms of the website. I want to make sure everybody is represented. And you see we have maybe, 2, 3, 4 stories that we've put together to date that have been submitted. I think there's maybe, I'm not sure, Sharon, how many, possibly up to 20 stories, if you will. So that is that. Okay. Now, that takes care of the success story element. I said there was an innovation. Now there's a third leg, and that's all about data. Now the data piece, what we've done is we've created a video. Video you can put on your website, you can link to it, I'm playing it right now without any sound. It's professionally done with animated graphics. And this sort of tells our story from a data perspective. What is the challenge with adult learners and how we have to help them? And then how in helping them achieve their potential, help things like the economy, help things like the individual, and our community. So those are the three sort of value propositions we're looking to do on this particular, or at least communicate in the video. So that's the other tool. Okay, still taking a tour here. I'm going to go now to the campaign toolkit. And let's sort of walk through this and share with you the different elements and then we'll talk about the webinars too and how we'll go deep within each of these toolkit items that will help your campaign and how you're going to adapt it. The first is the campaign fact sheet. And you'll see everything has a similar look and feel to the website. So we say here, America's at a crossroads. We need every person in our nation to contribute to America's competitiveness. Why do we say that? We say a lot of things in here in the headlines around adult education, investing, and we use the term investing, invest in adult education, and this is what you're going to get. Funders, policymakers, right? It's going to be good for the economy. We say that again because we're in a situation with the administration being very driven about the economy and very pro-business. So there's two sides to the story, remember, that we have to tell. One is the demand side, employers, business. The other is the supply side. That's just smart messaging and positioning to our target audience. How adult education is uniquely situated to address the needs of U.S. employers. How adult education addresses the skills gap. I think it'll be very eye-opening, and then here's an infographic. When we meet with legislators, do they really understand the many phases of an adult learner? That there are many entry and exit points. Some of them, yes, may need literacy, skills development. Some of them are looking to get trained and go on to college or specific skill sets and get placed into high-growth jobs. So I don't know if they necessarily know that. So we're going to make sure they know it in this campaign. How adult education increases business productivity, how it better educates, how better educated populations, again, that's going back to helping them achieve their potential, strengthen community, and also how it decreases reliance on government support. So you'll see kind of the themes in the messaging in that fact sheet, as well as through the video, very similar. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to, in the next webinar, which is going to be, I'm just going to sort of roll through these campaign toolkit items and tell you how we're going to approach them in upcoming webinars. So there's the fact sheet. There is a media advisory, and the media advisory template is going to help you announce any local events for your campaign. Maybe you want to highlight some programs in your area or do a big push across your state. And so there's a template in there on how you can get the media to attend the event. And then the news release itself, maybe you want to do something as simple as, hey, I'm just going to announce my participation in this campaign at my local level and bring media attention to my local program. That's great. There's a news release template in there for you. And then package that with the campaign video. Those are all going to be the topics of our next webinar on July 5th, which is how do you work with the news media. So some of you, again, there's a lot of different ways you can take this toolkit and tailor it for your needs in your area. Some of you may want to do an event. Some of you may just want to announce or do an op-ed. So there are a lot of ways that you can work with the media, and we're going to dive into that into our next campaign with these 4 particular items in your toolkit. Employer and student success stories, we've already talked about that earlier in the webinar today and provided you with a submission form. And that's where we'd really like for you to focus your efforts between now and especially the end of September, but hopefully earlier, so we can build our bank of stories. The following webinar, we're going to actually get some of the leadership team that you met earlier to help present what, Sharon had mentioned earlier, a lot that they've done in terms of outreach on the Hill. So we developed some legislative talking points as well as legislator key templates and how you find your either your local, your state or your federal officials to reach out to. So that those can be tailored and you can send those out. We also have things, and you'll see this design, these are editable, and this is a postcard that you can edit and send to your either your local, state, or federal officials with those key message points. So we've really spent some time to develop things like this, as well as, you know, as posters and things of that nature. You'll see as we go through the webinars how these toolkit items build on each other. Let's say we want to put a special event together and target your local or state officials and have them come out and see adult education in action. We're going to do a webinar, facilitate one on how to conduct an effective event. So you could use things in that event like the video, you'll have your signage, you can have your invite, fact sheet, and really have the human element of your programs, the adult learners there, telling their story. So we'll have a whole webinar dedicated just on how to develop a great event. And then the last one you'll see here, we've got things like PowerPoint templates and whatnot. We also have developed social media. That's going to be a big part of the campaign. And right now we have 47 followers, but hopefully after this webinar today, all 400 of you on the webinar, which I think is what we have, will be following. We'll be teaching you in that social media webinar how you take your social media, connect it into the national campaign to increase your followers and your likes. We have a special hashtag set up, so as we get geared up with this and you all have your different strategies rolling, we'll be using social media as a big part of that in terms of educating the public about adult education. So I'm going to stop there while I'm going to the PowerPoint again. And Sharon or Marianne, do we have any questions today?
Hi, Selena. The only question we had to date was with regard to whether or not this PowerPoint would be shared in the future, which I indicated back to the person that it would be. But other than that, we don't have any other questions at this point.
Okay, fantastic. Actually, yes, the PowerPoint, I'm going to show you here just a second how the PowerPoint is, where the PowerPoint is going to be posted. When you get the PowerPoint, and it's also on the Educate and Elevate website, these are the upcoming schedule for the webinar. So we've got the news media outreach, and I've shared with you, you know, what tools we're going to be covering, and we'll share examples and really help you. And then if you have questions after that, we'll show you where to post your questions so we can help you with your campaigns, however you want to use this. Working with legislators, that's going to be so huge for how we coordinate our efforts and use those fact sheets and videos and postcards and letters to really get the key messages out. Hosting a special event, that'll be July 19th, and then social media strategy. Now, as Sharon mentioned, we're going to have another webinar, we think, for the state directors. There are a couple of states in particular that want to really do this at a statewide level. For example, we're working with California right now. They have a big push in October for their legislators around their adult education block grant, which funds the 71 consortia throughout that state in K-12 and community colleges. So this is going to fit very nicely in with their efforts while they support the national campaign and tailor it for their needs. So probably soon after the social media webinar, we'll add another one for the state directors, and we can really strategize and share information just in terms of, you know, how folks are going to use this information. It's a lot of information, I know, but just realize, again, your participation can be, you can pick one of these things and do it, or all of them and do it. It really just depends on, you know, what you want to do with your local and state programs in terms of highlighting them. Again, it could be very simple, sending out a press release, or it could be even more in-depth in terms of really doing events and things of that nature. So the point is, you have the tools. If there are tools that you go to the website and say, gosh, I'm not seeing this and I want this tool, let us know, and we'll help you with that and create it organically as we're working together and going through the process. Now, here's the website when you get the information. the PowerPoint that will be sent to you and posted up. It's COABE has a wonderful online learning, which is adultedresource.coabe.org. Okay, and when you go there, you'll see at the very top of the navigation bar, Learning Forum. I'm going to see if I can go there now. And Sharon, if you do not see this, and I need to stop and
We do see it, yes.
you do see it. Okay, fantastic. So on the Learning Forum here, this is where it's at. I'm going to go there right now. And you can see that Sharon and team have put up a feed here on the National Public Awareness Campaign. So if I go into that feed, we're going to, in this section here is going to be a lot of information. We will have the PowerPoint posted. We'll have links to that storytelling video. And then we'll also have discussion questions. So we'll look at, maybe are you doing certain things with storytelling, or maybe you have a question about your local area. All of that is fine. So this is where we'll be using kind of this national learning forum, if you will, to have discussions with each other and also to share.
Selena, I'm sorry, we can see your PowerPoint, but we did not actually see the website. I don't know if you wanted to show the actual website.
Sure, let me get back there and get that for you right now. Okay. This one? There we go. Do you see that now, Sharon, on the Learning Forum?
We sure can. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fantastic. So here's the button here. Here it is live, where we can go here to the Learning Forum. And then over here is the National Public Awareness Campaign. And that's where we'll house, again, all of the items. If someone's doing a really unique event, say, we're going to post up information about that so we can replicate, learn from each other, because I know there's going to be some great innovations taking place on how this campaign is going to be executed. Okay, so Sharon, I'm going to stop here and see if there are any questions to date.
There are.
And also, okay, good.
Yes, ma'am. We have a question from Hillary asking, what's the overall timeline for the national campaign? She says, I hear there's a build-up for September Hill visits, but a lot of the programs aren't staffed during the summer for planning or campaigning. So she was asking about that.
Sure, and Sharon, you can probably that's better than I can, but I think the idea was to push out in September, but also to know this is an ongoing campaign. So let's say September does not work for you, but you want to participate and you want to do a push, whether your local area or state, in October, then by all means, it's an ongoing campaign. It's not a one and done, because we think this battle is going to be an uphill battle for a while, and we need to continually tell our story. So Sharon and the leadership team, I don't know if you have other things to add to that. It's a great question.
Yes, I would agree with you, Selena. You can probably mention too how in the past campaigns that you've done, they've been ongoing for years, and they take on a life that's much longer than just 3 months. So that's our goal as well, as we would like to push this, be pushing on this for a long, long time, not just till
Exactly.
September.
I think that's a great strategy. And in fact, the Workforce Investment Works campaign is still going on, and I believe that's been now 5 years that campaign has been going on. And what happens when you build up a repository of success stories, you're able to leverage each other's success stories and utilize them for all kinds of efforts moving forward, not just a one-time visit, but an ongoing way of communicating with your particular legislators, either at the local or state level. And so we'll talk about that in that upcoming webinar on working with legislators, because you want to build a relationship there. It's not just one and done. Here's a great story. It really is ongoing and showing them the 3 elements of this campaign, which is success stories, innovation, and data. We're building a business case for support, and that's an ongoing task. Great question.
Great. We do have one more, and this is, how do we ensure that elected officials will actually go to the website?
Perfect. Okay. Love this question. So one of the things that we're going to do is our social media campaign is we're going to gear that up. And you saw the Twitter feed. We're going to go out and follow elected officials. So it's important that you all also follow us. And then as we use the hashtag, we definitely will gain more followers. So that's one thing. We want to make sure that we have a social media following with the elected officials moving forward. Secondly, when we go out and we do our big push and our legislative visits, whether they're, again, local, state, or federal, we're talking about this website and we're pushing them to it, which is why you submitting your success stories and making sure your organization is represented is very, very important, because people are, legislators and policymakers, they're going to be pushed to this website. We're going to promote it through all the materials, and we want to make sure that you guys are represented on the site. Great question.
And Selena, just one more that just came in. Are there any promotional elements tied to apprenticeship career pathways with the increased federal funding and raised profile?
Such a good question. And it's timely. You know, you can submit, without a doubt, on the success story submission form, apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships as well. I would do both. And maybe what we do, because this is going to be an ongoing campaign, is that we create sections of the site that mirror the many faces of an adult learner and the many options for an adult learner. So certainly we could create a section that houses all and sorts all the stories, say, with apprenticeship, others with internships, or any kind of things that we get, but we need to get the stories from you to be able to do that. Right now it's just set up just in general adult learning, and apprenticeship is definitely in that mix. I know for sure in California it's a big, big push right now in working with those teams up and down the state. So I would love to see a whole section on the site just of apprenticeship stories and innovation. You know, how you're working with the private sector to not only register them, but create great partnerships with all your state agencies in terms of building that apprenticeship, especially in non-traditional apprenticeship sectors. Because that was an executive order. You take a look at that. The other thing I'll mention in that executive order, which is very interesting, is that we're coming under criticism, we meaning education and workforce, public sector organizations, about not being able to deliver apprenticeship effectively. A lot of red tape, which is why they're looking to loosen the regulations and just have people do these apprenticeship programs, anybody. And so that's going to lessen the quality of the program. So it's even more important in our storytelling efforts to show not only how we create these innovations among different public sector organizations, but that they're efficient and effective for that employer. So keep that in mind as you are submitting the stories. Love that question. It's really good. So Sharon, any other ones? It sounds like we've got a lively group here. You are going to be receiving a survey at the conclusion of this, and their comments on how we can make the webinar better. You know, since we have quite a few, there are 5 webinars and now actually 6 total that we're going to be doing, as well as this will give you time to sort of go through the website and the toolkit information, see if there are items that are missing. If you feel like, hey, you want to leverage other tools, or you'd like other tools created, let us know in that survey tool so we can help you. And then again, we'll be online answering questions out of that learning forum from COAG. I would say in terms of next steps, if you really wanted to boil it down and what should I do next, right? Because there's a lot of information. I would say number 1, start gathering your success stories and innovations and submitting them in that online form. That is probably the most critical thing. Secondly, if you have social media, follow us on Facebook and also like us on, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And those accounts you can link from the campaign website. And then thirdly, calendar the rest of the webinars and bring your team members to those webinars. Again, these will be recorded, so if your team members that are involved in outreach and advocacy were not present, make sure they take a look at these, and then you guys start developing your strategies on how you think you want to participate. Okay, Sharon, I'm going to turn it over to you to close it out.
Excellent. Selena, thank you so much for running us through this webinar and for all the work you've done. We greatly appreciate it. I would just like to take this opportunity to also open it up to my colleagues. So we have with us, as I mentioned in the beginning, the state directors are our partners and colleagues, and we're just delighted to be partnering with them. So on that side, we have Pat Tyler, who's their executive director, Beverly Smith, who's the chair, and Reese Stagnolia, the chair-elect. So I just wanted to give them the opportunity, if they had anything to say before we close this out, that they could do so. Reese, we can't hear you, I'm sorry.
And that's okay.
We can hear you now.
So thanks for the opportunity to participate today. I think this is just a tremendous opportunity to show the innovation of thinking in different ways about how we educate and elevate adult education, and how we share these resources to the field, and how do we think about how do we transform the field of adult education and rebrand and relaunch it in a new way. And I think this is very exciting, and thanks to Selena and team at Full Capacity Marketing, and the partnership with COABE with state directors has been a tremendous effort as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Reese.
Hi, and this is Pat. I really just want to echo what Reese said. I think Selena and Full Capacity Marketing have done a great job in bringing us current on how we do advocacy and public information. And the partnership with our organization and COABE has really made all this possible. So thanks to all of you on the panel.
Thank you, Pat. We also have with us today Tom Nash, who's our board president, and Kay Charbonneau, our president-elect. Tom, did you want to say anything?
No, I just want to say how important it is. I've shared these thoughts with others, how important it is to make connections and relationship building, and really that's at the cornerstone of an advocacy effort, but also an awareness campaign. So really important to get out there and make those connections with the legislators, both local and state and national level. And also just want to say that we do know that there's some challenges ahead of us, that we don't want to see our funds going away or being cut. But I think what we're hoping to have this message, hoping that message gets out there, that we really are looking that the administration invests in adult education. That's really where we're trying to take this message. So investing in our programs and our students and our staff will really make a difference in the future of our adult ed programs. So focusing on the investment side of things and taking that positive stance, I think is going to make a difference. So, and again, thank you to Selena and Full Capacity Marketing, the state directors, Sharon and her staff, and it's been a true team effort to get us to this point. So, and we have a lot of work still to do. So thank you very much again for being on this webinar, and thanks everybody for all their efforts.
Thank you, Tom. And then we also have Kay Charbonneau, and Kay, I don't know if you're able to say a few words, but she's our incoming president. So I just wanted to make a point to introduce her here as well.
Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate that. And again, I just reiterate everything that Tom and Reese and Pat and everyone has said. Part of the most important thing, though, is how important you are, the players in the field, where the river meets the road. We are all in this together. We're only as strong as our weakest link. So we need to hear from each of you. You need to be very active in this at your local and state level, and help us at a national level. We are trying to rebrand ourselves, and that doesn't happen overnight. We need everybody at the table. So thank you all so much for your participation. Let's look forward to July 1 getting here and us moving this forward. So thank you again.
Thank you, Kay. And then I would be remiss before closing out, I'd like to mention that we've been generously sponsored by both GED Testing and also by Dollar General Literacy Foundation. Without their support, this would not be possible. So I just want to thank them here, and also to mention that you'll see all of their you'll see their logos on all of our material, and that's intentional because here again, we would not be able to do this without them. So thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to the field for all of you who've taken the time to join us here. And thank you to our leadership as well. So with that, we will be in touch. You'll be seeing eBlast coming out. There's additional webinars coming up that we hope you'll join us for. And we look forward to really educating and elevating the field as we invest in America's future.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you all very much.
Bye now.
Bye.